A Step into the Past Volume 14 Chapter 1 Book 14 Chapter 01 Xianyang Happenings. Xianyang took a closer look at the cup of wine Dan Mimi presented to him but could not see anything unusual. He did not believe that the poison will dissolve into the wine immediately. However, all he can rely on is the illumination of the oil lamp, which makes it more difficult for him to scrutinize the wine. He gave up the idea of exposing Xianyang. He wasn't intimidated by him as he is confident that he can make Dan Mimi confess that Xianyang to be the mastermind behind the poisoning. The problem is by doing so, it is equivalent to openly opposing Lu Bue. Their underground battle will come to light. Remembering that Lu Bue has another several years of ultimate power, he decided to play safe for the time being. Moreover, this issue may become even more complicated and even affect Lao Ai indirectly. At the same time, he wonders if he can pretend to drink the poisonous wine. This will make Xianyang and Moao leave him alone for time being. When the matter has passed, it will cause confusion among them. They may be misled into thinking that Xianyang is immune to poison or that Dan Mimi did not poison him in the first place. Their infighting will only benefit him. These thoughts flashed through his mind very quickly and he reached a decision in a split second. Xianyang held the poisonous wine with one hand and embraced Dan Mimi's waist with the other and laughed, "Miss Mimi needs to drink another mouthful of wine to make it exactly half a cup." With his back to Gian and Xianyang, he forced Dan Mimi to take another sip of wine. All the color in Dan Mimi's face disappeared and she strongly fought back and protested, "Official Xiang is so barbaric." Xianyang took the chance to release his hold on her. As Dan Mimi has been resisting fiercely all the while, she lost her balance and fell on the floor. While everybody is focusing on Dan Mimi, Xianyang swiftly flicked his wrist and scattered the wine under the table. At the same instant, he pretended to help Dan Mimi up and concealed his extra movement. His cover-up was perfect. Dan Mimi sat upright in shock and was speechless. Xianyang laughed loudly, "It is my fault for causing Miss to fall down. I deserve to be punished." He raised his cup and pretended to drink the poisonous wine. Opposite him, Lord Chongping sighed, "Official Xiang is really amazing. This is the first time I saw Dan Mimi lying down on the floor in front of everyone." Everyone burst out in laughter at his comments. Xianyang put down his wine cup and noticed Dan Mimi's head still lowered with guilt. She did this to prevent others from witnessing the fear and unease in her eyes. On his left, Gian poured more wine for him. Xianyang smiled, "If official Xiang can bear with some pain, I am sure Dan Mimi will lie down again tonight." The two lords broke out in more laughter while the other girls are expressing a mixture of smiles and jealousy. Xianyang embraced Dan Mimi's slender waist and placed another cup of wine beside her lip, gently saying, "Please forgive me by drinking this cup of wine." Dan Mimi parted her sexy lips and stared at him with mixed emotions in her eyes. She then drank the entire cup of wine silently. Everyone cheered loudly. On his other side, Gian was annoyed, "Official Xiang is so biased." Xianyang could see that Xianyang was not suspicious of him and was secretly happy. He boasted, "I am the most unbiased man. Come. Let me serve Miss Gian in drinking wine too." Lord Changwen egged, "You should feed her wine from your mouth to make it more interesting." Gian chortled and actually lay down on Xianyang's lap with an inviting and seductive look on her face. Luckily, her position did not affect his injured leg. Although a beautiful woman is lying on his lap, Xianyang is not the least aroused. Firstly, he was busy peeping at Dan Mimi and Xianyang's reaction. Secondly, he knew that Gian is sent here to please him, the mighty imperial cavalry commander, and is full of insincerity. Gian may not be as pretty as Dan Mimi but is considered the second prettiest among all the girls present. Only Xianyang's Yang Yu can be considered on par with her. He could not resist taking advantage of her and poured a cup of wine into his mouth without swallowing it. He then lowered his head, matched her lips and let the wine slowly trickle out of his mouth. Gian moaned slightly and drank the wine skillfully. It is really not easy to drink wine lying down, and it must be quite challenging for her. With everyone cheering him on, Xianyang was about to withdraw when out of a sudden, Gian grabbed him tightly and forced some wine back into his mouth. Xianyang was very aroused and forgot about his inhibitions. He sent his tongue into her mouth and they Frenched for a while before separating. Everyone cheered wildly. Gian leaned on him weakly and seductively whined, "Can official Xiang stay here tonight? I guarantee that your injury will not be affected." As she was whining into his ear, only Dan Mimi on his other side can hear the words she mentioned. Dan Mimi trembled slightly and lowered her head again, as if she is lamenting over Xianyang's impending death and that she is his murderer. Xianyang kissed Gian's forehead and smiled, "If you do not make love wholeheartedly, it is not worth it." His hand snaked over and hugged Dan Mimi again and feigned surprise, "Is something bothering Miss Mimi?" Dan Mimi was stunned and sadly replied, "Official Xiang only has eyes for Sister Gian, so I am naturally upset." Guanzongzi hurriedly spoke up for her, "Official Xiang is truly impressive and can even make Dan Mimi jealous. We brothers are all in awe of your talents." Xianyang secretly cursed him for calling himself his brother. Lord Changwen smiled, "Looks like official Xiang has to feed her a cup of wine too." Xianyang thought that he might as well go all the way and tempt this female murderess. He prepared and held another cup of wine in his mouth and leaned over to match Dan Mimi's lips. After he finished feeding her the wine in his mouth, he refused to let her go and Frenched her deeply. Using all his kissing technique and tricks he learned in the 21st century, he did his best to tempt and arouse her. Dan Mimi's cold demeanor melted and starting burning with passion. Xianyang knew that with his kissing skills and his impending death, Dan Mimi will feel even more remorseful and may even really fall in love with him. After some time, tears can be seen in the corner of her eyes, affirming that she was forced to poison him. Xianyang did not want to leave yet as he is concerned that the spilt wine under the table has not evaporated yet. Gian came over to fondle him too. Inspired, Xianyang spilled another cup of wine under the table to hide the earlier spill. After a series of caressing, Dan Mimi surprising excused herself and took her leave. Without this popular babe, the lords were less enthusiastic compared to before. Xianyang took the chance to take his leave too. Whether she is sincere or putting up an act, Gian actually sent him all the way to the front courtyard. She made him promise to come back for her before she allowed him to board Lord Changwen's carriage. Suddenly, Xianyang finds himself more and more interested in this ancient Black Leopard bar. Back at the command center, he met Teng Yi, who is on night shift, and told him everything that happened. Teng Yi was relieved, "What a close call." He added, "We are too rigid and kept thinking that he will only attack us during the hunting fair. To think that he will use the beauty trap tonight. If we know more about the poison, we can trick them instead." Xianyang affirmed, "The poison will take effect after the fair." Teng Yi was stunned, "What makes you so sure?" Xianyang explained, Tu Xian informed me that Moao has constructed a kind of tool that can kill underwater. It is meant for you and Jing Jun. When I die of poisoning later, there will be no one in Wu family to counter them in the future. Teng Yi was incensed, "If Moao survives the hunting fair, I will change my surname to his." Xianyang's expression darkened, "We have always been thinking about ourselves. If they plan to assassinate Liu Gong and Su Xian too, it will be disastrous." Teng Yi breathed out in shock, "Will Liu Bue be so daring?" Xianyang remarked, "Normally, he always plays safe. But with the chaos caused by Lord Jialing's rebellion, he can easily push the blame to him. With his devious scheming, this is an opportunity he will not bypass." Thinking about this, he became impatient and stood up, declaring, "I need to see Liu Gong now and warn him." Teng Yi suggested, "I think you should see Su Xian instead. In terms of intelligence, Liu Gong is way behind him. If he believes us, they will take the appropriate countermeasures." Xianyang found it reasonable and left the command center under the escorts of the 18 guardians and a few hundred cavalry soldiers. Pretending to patrol the city, he rode towards Su Xian's left premier residence. As the imperial cavalry commander, he is responsible for all security matters in the city except for the palace. As the dinner appointment ended early, it is only 12 plus now. Except for the brothel areas, the remaining streets are deserted except for the occasional horse carriage. At the left premier residence, Su Xian met him in the inner hall. This famous great general of Qin smiled. I knew Xiaolong would look for me before the hunting fair. Xiaolong was taken aback. Why is Premier Su so certain? Su Xian sighed. Since Mu Gong ruled Qin, we become a serious contender for power. Unfortunately, the roads to the east were heavily fortified by Jing, so we focused on attacking the western lands. Finally, we conquered the other 12 states and gained plenty of territory. By the time Mu Gong passed away, we have amassed almost every piece of land on both sides of the Wei River. Since then, we did not conquer any new territories for over 200 years. We can blame the enemy, but it is actually our inability to overcome them. If you are powerful, who dare not succumb to you? It is as simple as that. Xianyang had no idea about history during those times and kept nodding his head. Su Xian became more enthusiastic and lectured, when the eastern lands are divided, we should take the chance to attack them. It is a pity that the Qin court is in trouble and power was in the hands of evil ministers. Within 40 years, we have a king who committed suicide, a crown prince denied of his succession, another king who was killed in the wilderness along with the Empress Dowager. Taking advantage of our internal strife, Wei invaded us and we lost all territories west of the river. Xianyang is beginning to understand Su Xian's mindset. Lu Bue is walking along the same old path. Whether Lu Bue can control the Qin court or even remove Xiao Pan, ultimately, Qin cannot unite the world. This is Su Xian's main concern. Su Xian stood up and mentioned in a deep voice, Xiaolong. Let's take a walk in the rear garden. Xianyang's goose pimples stood up and knew that he has something confidential to say to him. Under the bright moonlight, the two men strolled slowly in the rear garden. Su Xian sighed, we are just as barbaric as Rongdi and can be extremely stubborn. Xianyang city may be a beautiful city, but it is just a nice cover for our rough ways. If the city is gone, you will see our uncivilized lifestyle and customs. Fortunately, Xiaogong implemented Xianyang's reforms and imposed harsh laws to make us learn how to respect rules. He built up our army and emphasized on military contributions that make us invincible wherever our armies go. Now, Lu Bue entered the picture and kept promoting his own men. He even invited the inferior representatives from the 6 states to Qin, flattered them and secretly conspired with them. These actions are unfavorable to our state. I have read his spring and autumn annals of Lu.Hng. If Xianyang comes back to life, he will burn them at once. Xianyang finally learnt about another set of thinking other than Lu Gong's Qin racism. It is a clash of culture. Lu Bue has been too arrogant and did not consider the feelings of the Qin people. The Qin people he met are honest, straightforward, and do not employ schemes. Su Xian, Lu Gong, Wang He, Lord Chongping, Lord Chen Guen and Ngu are all alike. Lu Bue, Moao, Guanzongzi, and Lao Ai are all scheming people. Qin's invincibility comes from their strong family relations coupled with Xianyang's reforms. Lu Bue uses military men like Guanzongzi and Lu Xiang who are all his own subordinates. Moreover, Lu Xiang's denial of his wrongdoing is something Qin people detests the most. Xiao Pan's strict punishment of Lu Xiang thus earned him the respect of the Qin people. Su Xian stopped walking and gazed at Xianyang before mentioning, I am not against Lu Bue because he is an outsider. Xianyang is from Wei but he is someone I respect the most. Xianyang nodded, I understand Premier Su's thinking. Su Xian shook his head and sighed, Lu Bue is too simple-minded. He thought that by poisoning the king, Qin will belong to him. Thankfully, heaven has not abandoned us yet and gave us a capable ruler, Crown Prince Zheng. Even at the sacrifice of my own life, I will ensure Crown Prince Zheng will be coronated as the king of Qin. Xiang Xiaolong was shocked. From Premier Su's words, our situation seems to be life-threatening. Su Xian led him to sit down on some stones beside a small bridge and whispered, "Initially, I am not worried. But because of the uprising in the eastern provinces, Lu Bue has sent Meng Ao, Wang He and all our nearby forces to crush the rebels. Now, there is only the palace guards, imperial cavalry and imperial infantry protecting the capital. This is the most dangerous situation I have ever seen." Xiang Xiaolong frowned. "From what I know, the uprising is a scheme by Lord Jialing and Zhao General Pang Nuan. Didn't Lu Bue mention this?" Su Xian's face became clouded and commented, "That's true, but we all know Lord Jialing's ability. 10 Lord Jialings are still inferior to half a Lu Bue. Lu Bue is not someone who will be taken by surprise at the rebellion and send troops hastily to defend the provinces." Xiang Xiaolong can feel his body turning cold and softly asked, "Premier Su is saying that?" Su Xian concluded, "This has something to do with Lu Bue. As long as Lu Bue can time this scheme with Lord Jialing's rebellion, he can control him like a puppet." Su Xian's face became more solemn and he added, "If Lu Bue can kill you and your assistant commanders, both imperial armies will land in his hands. What do you think will happen to Xianyang city? That is why I can guess that you will visit me before the hunting fair. If you are really not Lu Bue's lackey, you should sense something amiss with your level of intelligence. Does Xiaolong understand?" Xiang Xiaolong has a second close shave. It is not easy to gain Su Xian's trust. It is only until now that he fully believed that Xiang Xiaolong is opposing Lu Bue. He must be guarding against Lu Bue's spying. After an awkward silence, he replied, "Thanks for Premier Su's trust." He still has some doubts and asked, "Even if both armies belong to Lu Bue, they will not necessarily obey him if he wants to overthrow the crown prince?" Su Xian sighed, "Xiaolong is still inexperienced. Unless Lu Bue has full control of the military, he will not dare to harm the crown prince. But if he can kill Lu Gong and me and push the entire blame to Lord Jialing, he will control the Qin court. Meng Ao is his lackey and Wang He the foolish ASSHO1, he dare not oppose him. With the Empress supporting him, there is nothing he dare not do." His eyes flashed energetically and state, "He who acts first is in control, he who acts later is controlled. As long as Lu Bue is alive, everyone will suffer. The history of Qin will repeat as long as power is held in the hands of unscrupulous ministers." Xiang Xiaolong nearly groaned. From Su Xian's point of view, everything is well analyzed and the strategies are appropriate. However, Xiang Xiaolong knew that before Xiao Pan's coronation, nobody could kill Lu Bue. If he cannot kill him, he will be killed. What kind of choice is this? He hated himself for not being able to use this reason to persuade Su Xian. How can he explain to Su Xian that history books have recorded that Lu Bue will live for several more years? While he is agonizing, Su Xian continued, "As long as Crown Prince nods his head, Lu Bue will not survive these 3 days." Xiang Xiaolong sighed, "Has Premier Su thought about the consequences?" Su Xian coldly snorted, "There are 3 obstacles. They are Empress Ji, Meng Ao, and Dubai. Dubai is the biggest headache. With Lu Bue gone, he will support Chongqiao to be the crown prince. If not for this consideration, Lu Gong and I would have acted when the late king passed away. Of course, Wang He has been dissuading us from doing this. Therefore, I hope you will persuade Crown Prince. You are, after all, the person he trusts the most." Xiang Xiaolong suggested, "I have another plan in mind. First, we must conduct the blood test and prove that Crown Prince and Lu Bue are not related at all. Secondly, we must kill Lu Bue's top advisor. With this man gone, Lu Bue is like a tiger without teeth and claws and his prowess will be limited. Thirdly, we will. Su Xian waved his hand and interrupted him, are you referring to Moao? Xiang Xiaolong was astounded, Premier Su has heard of this man. Su Xian simply dismissed, if I have never heard of him, how would I dare to oppose Lu Bue? It will be great if we can kill Guanzongzi too. Unfortunately, we are all guarding against each other secretly. If we openly fight, it will be hard to tell who the winner is. Xiang Xiaolong knew that based on this point, he can still dissuade this clever man. He whispered, thirdly, we will support Lao Ai and use him to counter Lu Bue. As long as we can drag everything until the coronation date, Lu Bue will be the eventual loser. Su Xian was blown away, isn't Lao Ai a lackey of Lu Bue? Xiang Xiaolong revealed his whole scheme to him and added, I even recommended Crown Prince to name Lu Bue the premier mentor to curb his ambitions. Su Xian inhaled a deep breath and stared at Xiang Xiaolong as if this is the first time they met. Assessing him for a while, his eyes glowed and he remarked, in terms of scheming, Moao is inferior to you. No wonder you can still live healthily until today. Xiang Xiaolong secretly felt guilty and smiled, luckily, I did not finish one special cup of wine tonight or I would have failed your expectations. Su Xian pressed for an explanation and he revealed everything that has happened. After he finished listening, Su Xian nodded in agreement, you are right. If Moao does not die, we will die under his hands one day. From my estimates, the poisoned wine will take effect after 7 days. King Xiaoyan drank Lu Bue's medicine and died from breathing difficulties 7 days later. There has never been any poison that takes effect after 7 days, so even with our suspicions, there is no evidence to indicate Lu Bue to be the mastermind. AI. Now, nobody dares to eat food from Lu Bue. It is really strange. The medication that King Xiaoyan drank was also tested by an attendant. Why didn't the attendant die of poisoning too? Xiang Xiaolong had to admit that Moao's poisoning skills are many times better than the dead Zhao Mu. Even if it is a slow-reacting poison, there will still be traces of poisoning when the poison has entered the stomach. How can there be a poison that will only react 7 days later? Even in the 21st century, it is still not possible. The only likelihood is that the poison is carefully wrapped in a special capsule. When the capsule is in the stomach, it will stay there for some time before it leaks the poison and take the life of the person. Thinking about this, he was agitated. He wished he could immediately rush back to Drunken Wind Brothel and investigate the area where he spilled the poisonous wine and see if there is really such a capsule there. Su Xian noticed his countenance changing and implored, what have you thought of? Xiang Xiaolong replied, I am thinking of how to persuade Premier Su to delay his plans to attack Lu Bue. Su Xian smiled, I am not a brainless fighter. Since Xiaolong has such a brilliant plan, Lu Gong and I will hold our plans back. But if you cannot kill Moao, it will be our turn to attack Lu Bue. It is better to die fighting for something you believe in than die an unexplainable death at home. Xiang Xiaolong beat his chest and swore, give me 10 days. I may be able to use his own poison against himself and let him die a mysterious death. Surprised, Su Xian stared at him speechlessly.